It's time for another episode of the Experience Franklin County, Indiana podcast. This week we've got a really exciting interview. We're talking with Jen Profitt, who has started a foundation to benefit the folks right here in Franklin County, Indiana. Let's get right into this week's interview. Hey, we've got a very special episode today. I'm so excited about this. And if you've been following me or my podcast for any length of time, you know that I'm a huge animal lover. And I am fascinated by the human animal connection and how connections with animals can benefit our physical, emotional, mental, and even spiritual health. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, a brand new foundation here in Franklin County, Indiana. Today I'm sitting down with Jen Profitt. Jen, thank you for joining me.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Rick. And yes, I'm aware that you too, like me, are have a soft spot in our heart for animals.
Absolutely. You know, we have rescued so many pets over the past, 60 plus years that I've been alive. Dogs, cats, snakes, turtles, tortoises, the list just goes on and on. And all of them have had a unique impact on my life. And from personal experience, you know, there have been times when I've had really challenging times
Mm.
emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And sometimes it's the animals that get us through. The benefits they have to us is just so many, isn't it?
It truly is. And there is such a connection that an animal can make with a human. And particularly when it comes to service animals and therapy animals, that is such a profound partnership. And my goal in starting the Profitt Family Endowment was really to recognize what a remarkable service dogs in general can provide to their handler. So the new fund is open and available to be able to be applied for via the Franklin County Community Foundation. And on this Giving Tuesday, with the seed money that I started the fund, I'm asking for folks if they would also be willing to open their hearts and contribute to this fund and be able to provide medical service dogs for folks, primarily first choice in our own community here.
Very good. Can we talk just for a moment about the difference between a service dog and a
Yes.
therapy dog?
Yes, we certainly can. So, a service dog performs specific tasks to mitigate a medical disability. That's a service dog. And a therapy dog provides emotional support and comfort, usually to groups of people. Service dogs are protected under the American with Disabilities Act, and they have full public access rights. And the therapy dogs, they typically work in pre approved locations like hospitals, schools, funeral homes. So, this endowed fund will be able to help remove the financial burden and barrier for individuals who are either looking for a medical service dog or a therapy dog. So, there is a difference.
Very good. So, a service dog, probably the example that we are most familiar with, is a seeing eye dog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there are other kinds of service dogs.
There are guide dogs that assist individuals, like you mentioned, with visual impairments to help them navigate safely. There are dogs who alert individuals who are deaf to important sounds like doorbells, alarms, approaching vehicles. There are mobility assistance dogs like gate dogs that help individuals with physical disabilities by opening doors, removing items, providing stability. And then we have medical alert dogs. So those would be the dogs that can detect low blood sugar in
Right.
people with diabetes. They can alert an impending seizure for someone who has epilepsy. They can even get this, Rick. They can even diagnose, alert changes in blood pressure and heart rate.
It is fascinating, and it talks for me. That really points out the human animal connection because it takes the verbal communication out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
You're having to communicate in other ways through smell, sense, on a
Yes.
much deeper matter. I'm fascinated by the animals that are trained to do things like open refrigerator doors or open cabinets for folks that are not able to do that. Are you familiar with the training for that? That's got to be
Yes,
a
yes, I am. So it takes about 18 months to 2 years to train that level of precision for someone. And here's an interesting fact, a couple of them. There's about 500,000 medical service dogs in our country right now.
oh my goodness.
And it's only 30 to 50% of them complete their training in that 18 months to 2 years. It has a really high washout rate.
Right.
So those dogs that don't go on to be to perform a medical service dog can make wonderful therapy dogs, and they make fantastic rescue dogs. Most of the canines that do the medical service dogs are Labrador retrievers,
Right.
golden retrievers, sometimes German shepherds. Those tend to be the animals that are the go-to one. The training usually begins as puppies. And here's a question that I've been asked recently, and it's a good question. Can you use a rescue dog to be a therapy dog? And my best answer is, while it's possible to use a rescue dog to meet these requirements, it's less common for a service dog program because they usually begin the training with their dogs as puppies to ensure that they have the ideal characteristics for the role because it has such a high washout rate. That said, many of these rescue dogs find amazing roles in therapy work or as an emotional support animal, which are equally as valuable.
Yes, and I had a rescue dog that was a therapy dog in a nursing home, nursing facility for about 15 years,
Mm,
and she was our best guess because she came to us as a young adult, so we don't know her
ah,
background. Was that she was part golden retriever and part collie, and you think about the personalities of those two breeds, just a great therapy dog. So dogs, as opposed to like doing tasks like
yes,
alerting, therapy dogs are more emotional support. Would that be a fair statement?
correct. Correct. I would say so that they are a comfort in times of grief, anxiety, and tension, which is why they are excellent in hospital setting, in a school setting, or a funeral home. And you've probably, as a pastor, been to more funerals than I've been, Rick. Have you encountered a therapy dog at a funeral home?
I have not, and I am fascinated by this because I can see absolutely the benefit of this. And I've encountered
Yes.
them in hospitals, nursing homes, schools, especially schools that have a large presence of students on the spectrum, for example. But here in the Midwest, I have not ran into one in a funeral home yet. Do you know how common it is in our part of the world?
I haven't, me personally, haven't encountered one yet. I'm hoping that this fund may encourage, if there's a financial barrier for a funeral home, to consider the value of having a therapy dog in a funeral setting. I think that canines are fantastic communicators when grief is involved.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you may not know this, Jen, but we have an official church dog that
No.
attends our services,
Oh,
and Ruby
great.
the church beagle. And it's fascinating to watch her when somebody comes in who is, maybe struggling with something. How she'll just kind of go up and gently feel them out. It's been really fascinating. So I'm really fascinated by the thought of service dogs in funeral homes. I see such a great benefit for this. So training either service or therapy dogs, that cannot be a cheap endeavor.
It is not. So a medical service dog, from the time the dog, the cost of the dog, all the training, that 18 months to 2 years, it's around $25,000. Um,
Oh my
which
goodness.
is why today, all the more important in Giving Tuesday, that we can help grow this fund and remove that barrier for individuals who need it, because these canines, these medical service dogs, are really a doorway to independence for folks with disabilities. And the more control that they can have over their own lives and independence, the better. And in order to apply for this fund, I mean, you have to apply through the Franklin
Right.
County Community Foundation. If you're applying for a medical service dog, it requires medical documentation. You'll need a prescription from your doctor. There are some questions. how will this animal be used, what are the expectations, and making sure that it's the best fit money and that the person is ready and willing to have what it entails to have a service dog.
And it's been a while since I have had a dog since
Mm.
Lady passed away. But I'm assuming now there's a certification process for the animal. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. There
Okay.
there there is no standard. You must be able to be under the owner's control in a public setting. So you just can't slap a vest that you buy on the internet and take your dog to the restaurant. And when they're acting squirrely, you can tell that they haven't been.
Right.
Um, I believe they can. I don't know what the law is particularly, Rick. That's a great question. I don't know that they can ask you what your disability is as the handler, but I believe they can say, they can ask you to leave if your dog isn't behaving well, or
Right.
if they're not, or what tasks they are performing. I'm not sure about what's required to get a dog on an airline to travel. I assume if they're not acting like they're under complete control and providing a service for you, that's obvious to all involved.
Right. So very good. So this brand new fund here, the Profitt Family Endowment Fund, administered by the Franklin County Community
Yes.
Foundation.
We're so proud to be able to have that fund live there and have the community foundation as our fiscal agent. They're an extremely well established 501c3, and all donations that are provided to this fund, you will receive a receipt for your taxes. So this is a charity, and you will receive a receipt for your donation. And every dollar matters, as I like to say.
Every dollar does matter, no matter what the charity is. It's in
Correct.
this day and age, every dollar does matter. Well, let me ask you on a personal note, Jen, what prompted you to start this? I mean, I know you're an animal lover,
Mhm.
but there had to be this light bulb moment, like this. This is what I want to do.
I would say I had a conversation earlier in this summer when the therapy dog in one of our school systems left with the employee that was the owner of the therapy dog. And they were applying to get another dog. And there was, I think, a $3,000 fee. And they were trying to find funds to raise money for the dog. And I thought, this would be a great use to be able to provide funds for these dogs that I know can make such a difference in students' lives.
Outstanding. That is excellent. I can't wait to see where this goes. If folks wanted to find out more about the Profitt Family Endowment Fund, where
Yes.
would they go online?
The Franklin County Community Foundation, their website. I can send you a link to well, let's see, we're listening. And it's a very long URL and email address to be able to say. But if you Google Franklin County Community Foundation, it's the Profitt Family Endowment. There's a QR code that's all over Facebook, and as well as I think the Franklin County Observer put the ad in for us today, which was fantastic.
Very good. And for the folks listening, I will grab that QR code and I will grab the link from the Franklin County Community
Sure.
Foundation. I'll put that in the show notes, so you
I'll
should be
send
able
you,
just to
that's
click on
perfect.
that.
I'll send you that when we end up speaking. What are some other questions that you have particularly about this?
What do you see as the greatest needs right now in Franklin County for service or medic alert animals?
I would say I'm sure that there is a child or a family member who could benefit from a medical service dog. Epilepsy, I'm aware of some teenagers with epilepsy in our community, or a child that may have a severe allergy, someone who lives alone who's older, who may be having hard time controlling blood sugar issues, someone who needs a gate dog. I'm sure they're out there. There's 23,000 people who live in Franklin County alone. As far as therapy dogs, our health clinics, our funeral homes, our schools, I think that this is a great way to make us not always be on the top of the food chain. Meaning, I think we used to have a more natural relationship with animals in our
Right.
history as humans, and we've kind of segregated them. And I think being able to bring that back has a real value, as you mentioned early on, to the wholeness of us, our spiritual side, our physical side, our emotional side. And I've seen for myself firsthand, as have you, if you've just mentioned about your dog, your pastor dog, and what that pastor dog is able to do. for your community. And I think who knows where the opportunities will go. Someone out there is listening, and maybe they can have a spark of idea to say this is a place to start. Now, because these dogs are so expensive, the medical service dog or the training, the therapy dogs, not so much.
Right.
Every dollar matters. And we can use this fund as a matching fund for other sources to help close the gap because they are very expensive.
They are very expensive, and they provide a much needed service. Well, we want to take a minute and thank the Franklin County Community
Yeah, oh my
Foundation for their
goodness,
part
yes.
in this. They
Yes.
are just an amazing group of people, aren't they?
They are. Their board is works as one. It rose together. It rose in unison, and we're really fortunate that their executive director Shelley Lunsford has her ear to the ground and her heart open to the needs of our community, and she's always quick to step in and respond with a compassionate solution.
And that's a interesting and I'm sure challenging position because Franklin County, we're a little remote. We're not like Indianapolis or Cincinnati,
Correct.
where we have lots of resources, next door to us or
Correct.
in the same town. So, a community foundation in a more remote area may be even more important
Hmm.
work than
I
in
think
a
so. I
yeah.
think so. It's absolutely vital because they're like the one-stop shop. Where do you where do you go? Or I call it, it's the Ghostbuster moment. Who you going to call
I
when
love that.
when you see a need or an unmet need? And my go-to is always the Franklin County Community Foundation, and they have earned my trust over time. And
That's so important.
mm,
And on a personal note, you have really deep ties to Franklin County. This is where you grew up, isn't it?
I do. This is home for me. So I have a my parents bought some property in 1968 here. My mother was born here in what we call the Valley of Brookville, and I have long family ties on my mom's side. My family were one of the five original families who platted Laurel as a
No
community.
kidding.
Yes, and then my other family on the other side were the owners of the sawmill out on Levy Road.
Hmm.
So that 600 acres is all family lands from the 1830s. So I do have deep roots here. My family returned in 1968, bought some land, and then I lived here, went to high school here, and as many do, went away to college again, went away to college again. I lost track of how many times that happened. Then worked as an adult in other communities and have been back for a while and very happy to be here and to make a difference in this community.
It's a great place to live. It's a great place to call home. I
It's a
think
great
Franklin
place to
County,
work.
a great place to work.
A great
Uh,
place to work.
I
And
think it's one of the most. I think it's one of the most beautiful spots in Indiana.
I
And
agree.
I spent my early years in East Tennessee, way back in a
Mm,
holler. Franklin County reminds me of home. The
mm,
hills and the hollers and the creeks. It reminds
mm,
me home.
mm.
So I'm just so happy to have a small part in this community. The Profitt Family Endowment Fund, administered by Franklin County Community Foundation. We're talking about
Yes,
service dogs, medical service dogs, therapy dogs. If you want to donate, there'll be a link in the show description. You can click on a QR code or follow the
yes,
link. Every dollar counts.
it
And
does. It really does. It
uh,
really does. So if someone has $5 they can give, every dollar matters. The more the merrier. These animals are the training is expensive, but think about what you're giving to. You're giving someone their life back, who's had their life hijacked by a diagnosis, by a medical condition that limits their participation in our community. These are our neighbors. These dogs will be part of our neighborhood, part of our communities. And what's a better use of your money than that?
absolutely right. Well, Jen, thank you so much for taking time out and I see your dog just walking through the background. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
I love this. And if you have any questions, you all know how to find me, most of the folks around here. Again, I'm Jennifer Profitt. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. If you want to donate, of course, as Rick, you just said, you'll have the QR code and some information in the show notes. And when you're ready to apply for the foundation, if you have questions, you can reach out to the executive director, Shelley Lunsford. She can reach out to me, and we can help you as a family or an organization figure out what we can do to help you get that need met.
Sounds great, Jen. I hope you have a fantastic day.
I
Thank
will.
you.
I will. Thank you so much.
And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Experience Franklin County, Indiana podcast. Don't forget to check our show notes where you'll find more information on how you can donate or get involved with the Profitt Family Foundation. Lots of exciting things going on here in Franklin County, Indiana. We're in the height of Christmas season. Lots and lots of things going on. And you can check our website anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for information on events, lodging, dining, festivals, and much more. That's www.franklincountyin.com. And don't forget to follow along with us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Lots of fun and interesting and exciting things going on in all of those places. Until next time, I'm Rick Garrett. We hope to see you experiencing Franklin County.